guests, and callers, not necessarily those of News Radio 1040 WHO.
So, we're going to talk with Congressman Tom Latham for a while this hour. Later, Herman Cain is supposed to join us, and we'll chat with him a little bit after 11. Welcome aboard, sir.
Great to be with you, Jan. I'm looking forward to seeing you out the fair and 10, 11 days of fun out there.
I really enjoy the fair because it's like RAGBRAI with it's food without having to ride.
We'll have the butter on the stick together.
I actually saw a program last night on one of the news stories. They have deep fried butter on a stick. Yeah. Have you ever tried one of those?
No, I haven't, and I'm not sure. Maybe we can split one.
Well, they apparently roll it in cinnamon and sugar, and then they deep fry it. And I don't understand how it holds together, but it must. But I'm not brave enough to try.
They're $4, so
really,
yeah, that's what I heard.
Wow. Well, that would, of course, would be a major impediment, and because you'd have to actually buy one.
I would.
Now, if I were to buy you one, would that violate any of the federal regs? What's the?
I would not accept it from you for other reasons.
Okay, but if somebody, how much of what are the guidelines now?
Zero.
And people can't buy you even a candy bar or nothing?
No. Not unless you're, if you're speaking at an event, something like that, you can have lunch there and they can pick up the lunch if you are actually participating in the event
You
itself.
Can't even scam a cup of coffee from a constituent anymore?
Not supposed to, no.
Yeah, life isn't worth living, is it?
So those are the
rules. Are you going to be, or do you want to be, considered to be on that commission?
Certainly it would be interesting. It'd be a lot of work. I would enjoy it very much. I have not tried to push to do it, but Speaker Boehner will make those decisions. There are people, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee and some other folks like that would probably be in line before I would as far as being on the committee. But,
well, this isn't seniority based.
No.
This is in case people wonder what we're talking about. One of the ways this is a super committee or a super Congress, whatever they're calling this.
It's a committee, a joint committee. Yeah.
In order to find ways to cut government spending in some way, and apparently the leadership doesn't trust the deliberative process as it exists amongst the entire body, or the finance committees, or the other bodies whose job it is to do this. They want to have a brand new entity decide who to cut and where, and both sides of the party can contribute members in the Senate and Congress. I think it's 6 on each.
Yes. 6 Republicans, 3 from the House, 3 from the Senate, 6 Democrats, 3 from the House, 3 from the Senate, yes.
And they're going to come up with ways to, theoretically, and they're supposed to be able to serve this up by Thanksgiving.
That's correct.
Is that a job you would like?
Yeah, I would, because I think there are a lot of places that we could find those reductions without cutting into defense, without affecting programs that are important, and get rid of a lot of the waste in Washington.
Do you think they will serve up anything at the end of which that will actually function?
Well, what they decide, if they come to an agreement, it's going to take 7 votes out of the 12 to get something put forward that will be voted up or down by both the House and the Senate. There's no amendments, anything like that. It's going to be a straight-out vote. And, I'm very, very hopeful, because the consequences, if they don't get an agreement, are pretty grim. You're going to have major reductions. About half of the reduction would come from national security, whether it be defense, homeland security, those accounts. The other half would come from a reduction of payments to providers in Medicare. And so there is a big push to actually get some type of an agreement, because the rescissions that would come about if, in fact, they didn't find an agreement would be very difficult. Now, I voted against the whole thing to start with, Jan. Let's be clear about that. But
what whole thing? You're talking about the
bill itself. Yeah.
That is to increase the debt limit.
Right. The way they did it, because it didn't accomplish what I thought we had to do. And, Standard & Poor's...
The entire Iowa delegation, both parties voted
for
against
entirely
it.
different reasons. Some because it didn't raise taxes. My reason was because it didn't actually cut anything, near term. It actually doesn't do as it was advertised, as far as I'm concerned. Standard & Poor's last April said that if, in fact, there was not a cut of at least $4 trillion over the next 10 years, that they would downgrade our debt. So it's like it's some kind of surprise when, in fact, they actually do what they said they were going to do, because this thing cuts about maybe $2.4 trillion. Is it real? There's no real cuts. It's actually just slowing down the rate of growth, primarily on the discretionary part of the budget, which is easy to do right now.
Which now is the smallest part of the budget.
Well, yeah, it's about a third of the budget, and that includes half of which is our national defense.
Half of the discretionary part.
Right.
The main parts that are causing the hemorrhaging, the big three: Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And those are now the interest on the debt. So now we have four rails that you're not supposed to touch.
Well, long term, for the solvency of Social Security, for the solvency of Medicare, to lower our interest payments rather than have an increase, we're going to have to look at reforms that actually will help folks in the future. We have a generational problem. We have 10,000 baby boomers every day going into Social Security and into Medicare.
That's all your fault, by the way, because you and other politicians had all of these wellness programs and health programs, got rid of smoking, and now these irresponsible people are living longer because you guys subsidized health. And now we have to pay for it. Thanks a lot.
I was just with the governor and the folks down at the Science Center, and they announced a public-private partnership as far as making Iowa the healthiest state in the union, which is what we should be doing. It's funded by the
totally irresponsible,
funded by the private sector, and this is a great initiative.
We already have one of the oldest demographics in the state, in the country, outside of Florida. I think Iowa's number 2. And you want these people to live longer, running up the tab even more, making the big three even more unsustainable?
I think having healthy folks here in the state of Iowa, no matter what age, should be our goal. And they will be a much less burden on our health care system.
Outrageous.
If, in fact, they're healthy.
Okay. You want them to be healthy right up until they die. And you want them to be a contributing member of society.
That would be, yes, absolutely. Healthy, contributing members to society. Absolutely.
Well, the demographics.
That's Iowa.
It is, actually. It is, yeah. It is a Faustian deal, though. The safety net was designed for a totally different demographic, different demographic assumptions. And now we're outliving all of those assumptions, and we used to have 23 to 1 for every contributor. Now we have like 2.25, I think.
Right. Well, it's exactly right. People are living longer. I think the life expectancy of a woman today is 82. A male today is close to 80. When Social Security first was put into place, life expectancy would be, somewhere in the late 50s for males. Yes. And so the whole demographic has changed dramatically.
All right. So what are we prepared
which is a good thing. That means that we're living longer and generally healthier.
Well, that means we have to be productive longer, too. Does that mean you would consider raising the Social Security age or the retirement age?
I do not think that at this point is necessary at all. I think we could look at merging Social Security and Medicare, bringing those more in line together as people live longer and are healthier. And people, quite honestly, an awful lot of folks would like to continue in their life's work oftentimes and to stay active, to stay involved in their communities.
This is not a new argument. These aren't new discussions. In 1995, when George Bush was in office, Senator Grassley did his best to get that president to come out to Iowa and begin a discussion on entitlement reform. Put on your earphones, sir. I'm going to play a soundbite. This is from 1995. Senator Grassley was on Tim Russert's Sunday morning show.
Benefit reductions or tax increases. Does he understand the true problem of Social Security?
The person who defines the issue will determine its outcome. That's an old adage. The president is a Professor Bush doing exactly what needs to be done. He's out there having a seminar with the American people on the problems of Social Security that everybody knows exists, but the public has not concentrated on it. He's going to force the people of this country to concentrate on it, and I will find the solution, and all of those issues are on the table.
All right, so that was 1995. He came out here, invested some of his, as he said, I'm investing some of my capital, back when he was popular, and came out, tried to get this discussion going. And all of the issues that we're talking about exactly now were being discussed exactly the same way then, and the American people and the political class moved zero in all of that time. What makes us think that we can come to grips with it now?
I think the American people understand today that we cannot continue as we are, that the demographics, the budget problems that we have today, the crushing deficit and national debt are not sustainable. And I think the American people today understand that there's going to have to be some changes. And Jan, if we would just do small things today, if you talk to an actuary, over time they'll have tremendous impacts as far as the future viability of our economic state in this country.
Yeah, David
Walker. If we would just do something today.
Yeah, you're repeating what David Walker. He used to be the CEO of I think the CBO. I think. CEO doesn't work, but it's a Congressional Budget Office.
Director.
He said,
because by waiting a year to reform Social Security, it adds about $600 billion in additional costs that we're going to have to come to grips with over time.
Yeah, he says every day we delay, we just add to the future claims. But these guys are number crunchers, and they say what's true. Then they hand over what's true to the political class, and then that's the end of it, because you've got, a guy that was now just appointed to this new commission, that the Super Congress, Senator Kerry, he said,
I believe this is, without question, the Tea Party downgrade. This is the Tea Party downgrade because a minority of people in the House of Representatives countered even the will of many Republicans in the United States Senate, who were prepared to do a bigger deal.
All right, so you have on the other side of the aisle, won't deal with the issue, and when the bond rating gets dropped from AAA by the Moody's, which should have happened a long time ago, they said, well, obviously it's those nasty people from the Tea Party who doesn't want us to spend more borrowed money caused our downgrade.
Well, does anybody?
He's going to be in charge of this. He's going to. Your team is going to be across the table from that team.
Right.
What reasonable expectation should the American public have that anything is going to get accomplished?
Well, obviously he's in a state of denial.
Massachusetts, I think they call that.
But what he's saying is all politics.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing we need today when we need to address real problems. Jan, last year we had about a $1.5 trillion annual deficit. Do you know what our liability that we incurred last year was? $5.2 trillion on top of that. Because those are the promises that were made last year going forward for people coming into the Social Security and the Medicare and the government employee future pension benefits, all of those things. So what's on the books is one thing, but what is not on the books and the liabilities that our kids and grandchildren are going to have to pay for was 5 times more than that to what was actually put on the deficit last year.
Right. You're stating the facts, but
right.
stating the facts is useful.
But to say that it's because of the Tea Party is